time I apply a word to express any kind of reality that is around me, it's not a sophisticated thing that I'm, you know, you know, this, what is this?
Magic wand.
You have to be difficult, don't you?
Harry Potter's wand.
Of course.
Came from her.
Everybody thinks it's a trick
Absolutely,
question.
right? It's blue. It's a magic wand. It came from her. It's a pen. It's
oh,
a
okay.
ballpoint. Whatever you know. There are a gazillion things I can say about this. And yet none of them is completely adequate to it and its isness. You know, saying it's a pen means what? If I just said, oh, I have a pen behind my back, there are 100 different kinds of pens that you could imagine me having until I bring this forward. So the word pen doesn't tell me very much about what this is, right? That's just a word for a thing, a darn concrete physical object that's here in front of us. And now you're trying to use the word silence or the absolute or something to talk about something that I can't even see or know, right? Of course I'm going to misunderstand what you mean by it. And you tell me the deeper silence, and okay, there's a silence and the deeper silence. Now he's shaded those two, right? Words are helpful, but they're also potentially hindrances to understanding. If you think that words are a hindrance, as they sometimes can be, you might be moved to be a person who doesn't use them at all and trying to refer to this. If you're someone who feels that they can be helpful at times, you're moved to use and talk about them, perhaps. Is that not the case? But we as human beings find that we do find words, otherwise we do run off and live in a cave somewhere and not want to interact with anybody. But the actual existential reality of what's going on in our heads and hearts at this moment, to what extent can you know that? Can you know what I am experiencing at this moment? Any more than I can know what you're experiencing. You might be experiencing deep pain. Your memory may be going back to places of great pain. You may be experiencing extraordinary joy and bliss at this moment that I cannot even begin to share and feel. All I know in some sense is what I am experiencing at this moment and feeling. And sometimes I'm not even sure I know that. I mean, you would rightly say perhaps you don't know that until you think back on it and you know it as a memory or reflection. Because the thisness of this perhaps is unknowable. Or knowable, because the word know, right? I mean, David would say, yeah, I know, but I know it. But the word know immediately triggers to someone, well, no, I use the word know as in jnana, as in, but not prajna. Are you talking about transcendental knowing of this, or are you talking about the knowing of this? So, the instant I speak a word, I have immediately, in some sense, brought out something which can be perceived in multiple ways by other consciousnesses. I may think I know what I want to express, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it has meant the same thing to everybody else. We may all be speaking the same truth. We may all be speaking out of, in fact, perhaps you can't help but speak the truth. Who speaks for you? What is the power or force that is actually causing the energy that leads your consciousness to give articulation to something? I can sit here endlessly listening to you speak because maybe I hear God speaking every time you open your mouth. Who else could be speaking?
That's really pushing the limits.
I don't think so.
Is it?
No,
I don't
Is
think
it?
Totally
so.
right on.
Is it?
Every time we speak, God is.
Well,
Who is speaking?
well,
Who's speaking?
this morning,
me.
when you were speaking in the kitchen to me this morning, who was speaking? I mean, you didn't script what you were going to say this morning. Who was speaking?
Well, knowledge can speak. Intelligence can speak, which are very different things.
But where?
Knowledge is the past stored in the brain, and then the mouth prattles on about what it knows.
That's fine. That's
And
fine.
then intelligence looks and sees and talks.
But you're applying knowledge to interpret intelligence.
Well, intelligence uses the language which it knows to speak, but it can be speaking about something that's coming totally from silence.
Yeah. So is it maybe? So is it maybe then not knowledge applying attention, but the absolute using knowledge, the way you said, is it the silence coming from thought or thought coming from silence?
Why are we treating memory and thought so terribly? Why are we stomping on it and kicking it around like such an awful, terrible thing? You know, if my daughter, when she was a little girl, came up and drew a little kid's drawing of a girl playing in the backyard and a tree and a house and colored it, I go, oh, how beautiful it is, you drew this. And then I stick it on the fridge door and I look at it periodically, and I'm delighted when I see this thing. It's a memory, it's an old drawing, it's frozen now in time. She drew it then, and it continues to give me a certain amount of pleasure. Thought didn't come from nowhere. It came from this. It came from this. It's a debris, it's a leftover, it's the garbage of this, but that doesn't make it any less sacred, does it?
Well,
Right? It has its place. It's problematic if we rub it around over and over again, perhaps in each other's faces, in our own minds, and so on. But what I would like to say is that there's nothing in this that is not, to some extent, coming out of this. So unless you partition the world into that which is good, that which is pure, and that which is impure, what are you left with but only the sacred, only that which is valuable in some intrinsic way? That, that partitioning, I wonder, it's not, I would like to ask you to think about this. Is it this very act of partitioning and dividing and comparing and judging and discarding that may in fact be a kind of a source of anxiety, a source of our discontent, and so on. And that in the seeing of that, perhaps might come the dropping away of that distinction and that comparison. I would like to perhaps leave us with that, because in some sense my whole question of what was my original question? What was our question here?
why not?
Why not this? Why not this? Right? So it brings us full circle back to that. Why not this? Whatever this is. And I suppose I maybe should stop, lest we just eat so much more into our tea time that
We're playing golf.
Okay.